I, 34F, was recently engaged to my boyfriend, 37M, of 8 years. We've been living together for quite some time, yet we've always kept our finances almost entirely separate. When it came to discussing being married, the idea of a prenup came up. It was then that I came clean about my financial status. My net worth is just barely 7 figures, yet he's been the one supporting the household. Background: we met months after I returned to my hometown. My father had unexpectedly died, and I'd left a lucrative engineering career, 6 figures, that had started fresh out of college. Before that career hit, I had been raised to be frugal as hell, and I suffered like crazy through college. No home internet, no phone, no car, working multiple part-time jobs while being a full-time student, etc. When money suddenly started coming in, my lifestyle didn't change that much. Being able to afford a dozen more food options and having a $500 car felt like moving up in the world. So when we met, I had 97 car, a crappy 1-bedroom apartment, never went out to eat, including fast food, and was working a minimum wage job. I got the job for the sake of insurance, and I had wanted something extremely flexible in lieu of my father's death. So I imagine I came across as someone living paycheck to paycheck, when I really had quite a chunk of change in the bank. As our relationship progressed, we found we had very different styles of living. He liked going out, and I disputed this. We always split the bill down the middle, and I was getting cranky. These outings were his suggestions, and my date ideas were free/cheap. He said he'd pay for both us. Move forward, we moved in together, and I disputed. We didn't need to rent a large house. It was ultimately decided to get his choice and I'd pay a smaller portion. Then my mother died. The savings of my frugal parents went to me. My boyfriend knew I didn't like spending money, and he knew I wasn't in debt. But he still thought his worth was higher, and he was still paying for most of the expenses. To clarify, he'd worked up to a 6-figure job, and I feel he should spend his income as he wants. He spends at will, retains little savings, but he stayed debt-free. Fast forward. We're engaged, and I tell him how much money I have. He's initially excited at the prospect of being able to buy all these things. I'm scared. My finances will suddenly become our finances, and his spending ideas are not what I want. We discuss this, and now he's mad that he's been mostly supporting me for so long, unnecessarily. I point out that was the lifestyle he chose, and that he absolutely refused my suggestions. Still, I benefited. I say we can use my savings to buy a house, to have solid funds for future children, for earlier retirement, etc. He's growing more resentful. My net worth was a lie of omission. I never told him I couldn't afford things. Comment 1. YTA. This doesn't sound much like a partnership, and differing views on how to handle expenses can be a major test for serious relationships. Also, consider this: OP knew exactly what their partner's lifestyle, income, and means were throughout most of the relationship. Their partner after 8 years just found out OP was hiding that same information from them while basically using them for their money, when they completely did not have to. Potentially a deal breaker for many. Comment 2. YTA. You still lied and had zero problem benefiting from his spending. You just don't want to spend your money. You have no issue spending his, and now he knows that. If you wanted a different spending process, then you sit down and work out a budget together based on the truth of the finances. Comment 3. YTA. The only reason you have a net worth over $1 million is because you haven't been contributing your fair share of the costs and your investments have been allowed to grow. You could have discussed a compromise with your boyfriend to live a little more modestly rather than mislead him into thinking you couldn't afford to live in a nice place. I am also curious as to why you couldn't get a higher paying job considering your education and experience. I have been with my GF for 3 years. I have a 13-year-old son James and she has an 11-year-old son Mark. Mark and James have different bedtimes. Mark goes to bed at 8 and James goes to bed at 9. Mark also has severe ADHD, autism and a lot of emotional regulation problems. Due to his issues, my son isn't particularly fond of him. They butt heads a lot. Mainly because my son doesn't think that they get fair treatment, and usually it is surrounding bedtime. Mark often fights us to go to sleep, and by the time we finally get him to stop throwing a tantrum, it's around 8:45. James feels that he should be able to stay up later because Mark is awake until 8:45, which is 45 minutes past his bedtime. So at that point, James runs his mouth nearly every night about it not being fair to him and that he should be able to stay up 45 minutes later. However, this also happens even when it takes only 10 minutes to get Mark in bed. James gets pee off, runs his mouth and says he should be able to stay up an hour later because Mark was in bed at 8:10 versus 8 p.m. when he was supposed to be. My son can be a dink sometimes when it comes to running his mouth, and he's been spoken to so many times. Grounded more often than he should be as well because he is disrespectful when running his mouth. So in no way am I condoning his shit behavior here. I've been trying to correct it, but he's a kid and he's just being an R. Anyhow, at 8:15 last night my GF was trying to get Mark down for bed, and it's becoming a problem because it's just a bad night. James goes into Mark's room where my GF was and says, so I'm staying up an hour later then. My GF says, no, you're not actually, get out. This sends Mark into a conniption because now he thinks James is staying up an hour later, because James is running his mouth and Mark doesn't process information the same way we do. So it sends Mark into a new round of fits. James didn't leave the room and instead says, tell me how this is fair. Explain this to me. Why is he staying up every damn night but I can't? My GF again told him to leave the room. I go in and before I can even open my mouth, James says something under his breath and my GF loses her shit. I have never seen her be anything other than a kind, overly patient woman, so this was a complete shock to the system. She screams, get the duck out and mind your own ducking business. James immediately shuts up and walks out. But apparently that wasn't enough because she just snapped. Again, this is not normal. She followed him out into the hallway and said, better yet, pack your ducking shit. You're no longer welcome in my house. Go back to your mom's. I step in completely, told James he is once again grounded from everything and to go to his room, and then told my GF to step outside and calm down. She is still flipping out at this point and says if that kid is still in my ducking house by the time I come back in here, then I will call the cops and have him removed. I am so ducking tired of that little puke disrespecting me and you doing jack shit to stop it. She goes outside. I go talk to James, tell him he's out of line and this will be the last time he opens his mouth to run it. When my GF comes back in, I tell her she needs to go apologize to my son and that he will not be moving out actually. She says I will evict you if he doesn't leave. Actually, no, I think you need to leave anyways. I'm ducking done. She told my sister today that she truly wants both of us gone and took off for the day with her and her kid and told me I had better be out of her house before she returns. I have nowhere to go and don't plan to leave, but I still think she's being ridiculous. Edit, sorry, forgot this detail. I have been living in her home for 3 months. She bought it long before we met. But technically she would have to serve me an eviction to get me out of here. Comment 1. Have you even asked your girlfriend what James said under his breath, or did you hear what he said and are not repeating it to get more people on your side? For a woman who you said has never been anything but kind and overly patient to kick off like that, you know that what your son said was really bad but you won't tell anyone what it was. Then you tell her to apologize to him? Some honesty from you here seems necessary. Comment 2. YTA. You are staying in someone else's house and expecting them to put up with your kids' disrespect? Get real. You've been there 3 months and I guarantee if she is smart that she is done and going to file eviction paperwork. If that goes on your record, good luck renting anything. Take it as a lesson and move out now. My daughter is planning a wedding with a man she's been seeing for 5 years. She met him at 20, and he's 8 years older. We were apprehensive at first because of the age difference, but he was respectful, attractive, smart, solidly employed, and treated our daughter well, so we got over our apprehension. Over the years, this man, let's call him John, was a bit of a big spender. We are not. We're solidly middle-class couple, and are financially conservative. Over the years, John has consistently assured us that he's financially okay, even savvy. He told us he is an avid FIRE movement enthusiast. He let us know about a big 150,000 win on GameStop. He let us know about a 500,000 inheritance, and then another 500,000 windfall from a business sale. He shared his crypto knowledge and wins. He told us about the sale of a property he bought at the bottom of the market that he was selling at a handsome profit because he didn't like being a landlord. Meanwhile, he slowly became part of the family, coming to holidays and eventually vacations. My daughter mentioned some red flags: heavy pot smoker / time-consuming online gamer / obsessive day trading, but after a few breakups, he'd always course correct. We're a few months away from the wedding, when he told my daughter that they'd have to wait 5 years to buy a house. This made no sense. My daughter has saved enough for a down on her own. He wants children within 2 years, so why wouldn't he want to find a home before then? I pressed her to see the finances before they marry, and sure enough, he was lying. Yes, his retirement is fully funded, but his savings is nowhere near where it should be based on all his stories and his age/income. He broke down crying, with story after story of where it all went wrong. He rode GameStop back down to nothing. He broke even on the house. He lost the inheritance to bills of a relative. The business sale only netted 1/3 of what he expected. He's been living above his means, but it's partially my daughter's fault because she enjoyed those dates, right? Ugh. As conservative spenders, we were perplexed by the Mercedes, the Peloton, and the latest gadgets, gaming systems / $1,500 scooter, etc., and the spacious 2-bedroom apartment, without a roommate to offset costs. But our daughter would assure us that his plan was to retire at 40, and all his windfalls and smart investing allowed for all the extras. Now that we know the truth, we're sickened. He blatantly lied, for years, to my husband and I. We wouldn't have cared if he was a regular guy financially, but feel that he created this facade so we wouldn't be concerned about his aggressive spending. We feel betrayed, and we feel he's a horrible con that can't be trusted, and that he most likely has a gambling problem. My daughter wants to move forward with the wedding, and we feel it will be the biggest mistake of her life. She feels we're overreacting. Update: it's postponed. It sunk in last night, and the gravity of 5 years of deception had her reassess. A rough road ahead, but the plan for all of us to reacquaint with this person, and take this slowly. He was part of our family, and I believe we can all benefit from some family counseling to understand what exactly happened here. Comment 1. She has no qualms about her future husband lying to her about something as big as finances for years. She doesn't care that he can't retire at 40 or that the life they've been talking about is now impossible. I understand, love, but come on. You need to encourage her to take some time before she makes any big decisions, like getting married or calling off the wedding. I understand your frustration. I'd be furious. But please try to focus on creating space for her to safely land, so she sees that going through with this isn't her only option. I'm so sorry. NTA. Comment 2. NTA. You need to approach your daughter with love, and make her understand. Maybe get her friends involved or anyone who you know can talk some sense into her. The man is flat out lying to her about something so huge, and there is even a possibility that he groomed her, and that's why she's so adamant on marrying him. If all else fails and she still ends up marrying him, for the sake of your daughter, attend the wedding so you don't lose touch with her and that she isn't isolated. But you guys are not wrong for being frustrated. My fiancé, M28, and I, F28, are set to be married in December. We got engaged in June 23rd, and decided on the wedding date a year and a half in advance for everyone's convenience. We have been dating since 10 years and have been saving up for the wedding since 5 years, to be able to afford an extravagant wedding in a palace in India, and we finally made those arrangements. My husband's sister has always been a golden child. She always got what she asked for, as opposed to my husband, who they treat like a cash cow. Every time his mother needs anything expensive, He's the first call she makes. I try not getting between them, but she's never shown any interest in his life. Coming to the wedding, we sent out save the dates in December 2023 for people to plan their holidays/plans way in advance. My Sil got married 3 years back. It was a nice wedding, but not as fancy as ours. When she knew about the plans, she started finding problems in everything to a point where my husband asked her to stop interfering. Last week, we got a call from her in all excitement to tell us she was pregnant and is expecting a child in December. Both of us were shocked but happy for her and congratulated her. She then proceeded saying, "So you can just come to SF to get married at the City Hall. I would need help with the baby." I was baffled and told her the wedding is still on, and her having a child does not change our wedding plans. She threw a fit when I said that and hanged up. Later that day his mom called and told us to postpone the wedding 6 months so his sister could attend it, and if we don't then she wouldn't attend either, and that her daughter's pregnancy is a bigger event than our stupid marriage. My husband was upset and chose to not respond, but I lost my shit. I told her that if my Sil prioritized her pregnancy over our marriage, which she knew for about a year and a half, we're not obligated to prioritize her pregnancy over our happiness. My husband is speechless and we don't know what to do. Comment 1. NTA, you are going to postpone your wedding to help take care of a child you did not give birth to. I know you don't want to get in the middle of your husband's relationship with his family, but you could gently hint that he should limit contact with his mother for his own mental health. Be supportive of whatever he wants to do. There should be a discussion of how finances will be handled as a married couple. I would not be comfortable with my husband using money that could be used to build our lives together on a family member who is not having an emergency. Don't demand that he not give his mother money, but it should be a discussion. Comment 2. NTA, your plans supersede her pregnancy. The only problem I see is now she may not be able to attend herself, so sad but that's life. Expecting you to change your wedding plans is awfully narcissistic and entitled of her. She isn't the center of the universe. Comment 3. Clearly NTA. I'd go no contact. That's a toxic situation that you don't need in your life. I hope your soon-to-be husband eventually stands up for you and has your back.